Back and bigger than ever, it's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com. The entire crew is here as we get ready for another week of football. Kent State coming to town. Likely not to be a challenge, and I've stopped being a little bitch, and I've gotten out of my bed and am here. Hopefully not infecting anyone. Everyone's keeping their distance. No COVID. Don't worry.
COVID's over,
yeah,
so
I know.
I don't know how you
I don't know why I even mentioned it. But
although I think Brent had it a little bit at the beginning of his press conference.
He did, right? He was
Yeah.
coughing yesterday, too, yeah.
I thought he was losing his voice for a second.
Probably just needed a little water. But you're right, it's over. I thought yesterday, I kind of enjoyed listening to Brent yesterday. 50 minutes of press conference and a lot of really thoughtful answers that came out of it. You guys have been talking to players. I know Dylan Gabriel, you saw the video on Sooner Scoop HD yesterday. And I think kind of what I expected out of this week is what we got, which is, hey, we went out and played well, but we've got a lot to get better at.
Yeah, and I liked how Brent kind of just started Tuesday off saying it was hot, yes, offensive tempo, yes, but that not an excuse for why the defense can't get the job done. I really appreciated the no excuses mentality, even though he said it's not in the locker room. Just make sure that doesn't start to be created, that you start having these built-in excuses as to why you can't be elite at what you're doing. So I really love that. That was like one of his first. It wasn't even the answer to the question, because the question was about tempo offense from 20 years ago, and he just kind of geared it toward what his main message he wanted to be throughout the course of this week.
When you put it in terms of like what they were saying, just as far as like the big plays that they didn't allow, I think it was only 2 plays over 20 yards. They didn't allow a run over 8 yards. Obviously, the tackling was better. You get a better picture of kind of what Saturday was, and it was a foundation for a lot of what we had talked about on the postgame podcast, just as far as it was good to see. It's a good starting point, but you want it to get better and better each week, and you would hope that comes, what is the cliche, like football line, you make your most improvement from week one to week two. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll
like you said, I don't know.
We'll see what it is.
That's the first time I've been a head coach. I've never been through week 1 to week 2. So that was
yeah.
But and the other thing, we've talked about it so much, and I don't think. I mean, the thing that impresses me about Brent is he always seems to tackle things head on that maybe staffs in the past haven't thought about.
Sure.
Which is the captain thing. Like
yeah.
And building leadership. Like we've talked about that so much during the offseason, and about it was such a problem last year because they had some guys that were leaders, but they weren't vocal leaders, and it seemed like someone was always looking to someone else to pick everybody up, and that wasn't always that wouldn't always happen. And I mean, what he's doing with the captains and naming different captains every week, and he said at the end of the year, we'll have our captains, but I just like what they're doing from a leadership building perspective.
Yeah, it doesn't stop after 1 week of being named captain, and then you just get to rest on that the entire season. You have to show it, prove it every single week, and we'll see if one of the guys named captain in this first week doesn't end up getting that role again, or who ends up stepping up. But yeah, it's just a constant state of being hungry, and I think that's what he's really trying to get through.
Eric Gray, Reggie Grimes, Chris Murray, Theo Weiss,
Woody
Washington are your 5 captains for Saturday, in case you missed it.
Well, and I do appreciate kind of it. There's a it seems like there's a lot more transparency in terms of what's going on behind the scenes. We kind of know what's going on with Wanye. Mm-hmm. We know that Daniel Parker, got kind of blown up into a big deal because of probably a tweet that he had. But it seems
the
sniffles, which is I'm familiar with those. Brent's kind of familiar with those. It seems like, but it's nice to know that these guys are coming back. Nobody's really looking at it as a big deal. I mean, Brent was asked yesterday about, kind of, is Wanye in the doghouse when he comes back?
I mean,
no, he's practicing.
If nothing else, it's just good to hear, yes, this is what's wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
Or, just not so vague about,
hopefully that continues.
Maybe he's going to be back. Yeah. Maybe he's not going to be back. it was just good to flat out hear, yes, Daniel Parker's going to be back on Saturday. You're going to see him for the first time in an OU uniform.
And to this point, it seems like everybody is healthy.
Sure.
Right.
I think the biggest not injury, but biggest just health kind of is surrounding Jalen Redmond, and is he all the way back, and is he confident? He didn't start, and Brent mentioned that he was proud of him for not getting his head, keeping his head down and getting down on himself because he wasn't the starter, but.
Yeah, I appreciated Redmond saying it took him a lot longer.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't just a slight concussion. He was out a good 3 weeks, and he missed meetings for a week.
That's a month.
Because
he missed
of the headaches. And so it wasn't just like a deal where he had it, and then 2-3 days later he started feeling just fine. He was out, and he's trying to round back into form as he's playing through it.
And the other thing, how refreshing that we get to talk to freshmen again. Javonte Barnes was great to talk to. His interview that you had up, I thought was excellent, talking about DeMarco Murray and his path to Oklahoma and just their relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the overwhelming themes of the week, isn't it, Bob? Just as far as what you walked away and talking to Marcus Major, as well as just how big of a role DeMarco Murray has kind of played, not just as a coach, but a little bit as a father figure, counselor, whatever you want to call it.
You change your message from what you're giving to Barnes to what you're giving to Major. With Barnes, you're just hoping, with every rung of the ladder, he's okay. He's acclimating them. With Major's like, hey, it's put up or shut up time. You got to mature, stop being childlike. If you don't do it now, it's never going to happen. I'll help you get there, but you got to show me that you want it too.
And I think the one thing that Brent brings is, as a head coach, there's so much communication. You feel like he's talking to us exactly like he talks to the players. And when he's talking about Gavin Freeman, he's talking about Javonte Barnes. He's not afraid to say, look, these guys are potentially special, and they're going to push for more plays. He's not worried about I can't say that because then the other guys might get in the portal and get upset. He's just laying it out there, what he sees every day.
That's kind of, I think, refreshing for not just us in the way that he's talking about it, but it has to be a little bit refreshing to hear it as a player, doesn't it? Inside the locker room.
You know where you stand all the time, yeah.
And that kind of goes back to the previous regime and stuff. Those guys aren't stupid. They're at practice every day. They see what's going on. So it is refreshing. I think that's probably the best way to say it. Josh, I know that I think one of the other overwhelming themes of the week in talking to McCade Mattower, we got Tyler Guyton for the first time.
Right.
We talked to Andrew Rame. We heard Brent Venables talk about it. We've heard Dylan Gabriel talk about it, and that's the play of the offensive line in Game 1. It certainly doesn't seem like they're pushing any panic buttons over there, but I know that just going through the Monday Morning Idiot, there were some obvious problems in Game 1. How easily can those be fixed? I guess time will tell.
Yeah, and you have to, you've got to acknowledge that there is a considerable portion of that line that is not playing where it was expected to when this all began, even 2 weeks ago. So that when you have those kind of changes, and I talk about this all the time, and I know I hit on it a lot, but Bill Bedenbaugh's talked about it. Everybody that really, I guess, watches O-line play, it's so different. People think left and right is just interchangeable. It's not. It's like writing with your left hand or writing with your right hand. It's a different thing, and most people can't just switch back and forth. And that's I thought Anton Harrison was solid with what he was asked to do, the late change, really not playing a lot of right tackle. He played it in high school, but hasn't played a lot of it at Oklahoma. So I think that is I think it's a sign of his maturity that he kind of found a way to handle that and deal with it. But the left side of the line with Tyler Guyton and McCade Mattower has got to be better. It won't. They can probably get away with it this week with Kent State bringing a very small front to Norman. But in general, man, you're going to have to be better than that because there was too many plays where it wasn't just, they missed something here. They were getting physically beaten up, especially Mattower. And he's a better player than that. I don't really understand it. I know there was some talk. Gabe mentioned thinking maybe he was hurt. I've talked to several people, and I know, yeah. it was the easiest explanation because he's the most experienced guy on that line.
Yeah,
like he's played more football than anybody.
29th consecutive start in college ball.
And I mean, we can bag on the Pac. We could bag on the Pac-12 all we want. It's not that bad. Like it's not like that kind of play was fine in the Big 12 or in the Pac-12. That wasn't okay. But at the same, like something was off. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was first game jitters. I don't know. It could be any of a million things. Like I don't know. But
maybe just playing in front of a crowd, maybe because that's one thing that doesn't happen.
Didn't know how to respond.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, it like you said, Josh, I don't think it really matters. It wasn't good enough, and that's the kind of shit that will get you beat in 3 weeks when they play Kansas State. It might even get you beat in 2 weeks when you go up to Nebraska. So they need to get it figured out.
Absolutely. And I keep hearing, like Savion Byrd, like, is he ready? Does it matter if the other guy's not doing what he like?
That's what Brent said, right? That's what he said yesterday.
If neither guy's getting it done, give me the more talented guy. Like I'll deal with the mental miscues if he can line up and beat a guy on 3rd and 1 when I need a first down. Like, sure. I mean, and again, that's it. I'm not saying that, he's more talented, so he's always going to win, that kind of. I'm just saying, if the mental mistakes and the just general, proficiency is going to be the same, give me the guy with the room to grow. Like, Savion Byrd is arguably the most talented guy on this offensive line. Like, if you're going to leave a door open for him, I'm going to give him every chance to walk through it.
Well, but this isn't unusual. I mean, like, every year, Bill Bedenbaugh, he takes a few games to get his lineup set. But it is baffling when you consider that every one of Matauer's teammates praised him. I mean, coming into the season, like they know what offensive line play look. They know what a good player looks like, and by all accounts, they felt like he was a big piece of what was going to be a big piece of their success.
I saw from Chris Murray what I expected from McCade Matauer. Chris Murray wasn't dominant. He wasn't overwhelming. He was really solid. He did exactly what he needed to do.
Didn't have any penalties,
he was good in pass pro. He was good. Yeah, I know that's been your deal. I mean, like you watch him close, and I thought he had I thought he had the most consistent, probably best game of anybody on the line. And again, with Anton, I think you have to gauge that a little bit just because he was a little bit out of his comfort zone. But I thought he played well with what he was asked to do. But I liked what Murray did. And Matauer, like and I want to say it got better as the game went on. And maybe that's what it was. Is that first quarter, I was like, here we go. Like you're gonna be solid at left guard. And then you watch it, and I won't say I saw it the first time through. When I went back and watched it on tape, it was like, oh man, this is. Because OU just got out so fast, you didn't notice a lot of the warts off the top. And then as you went back and could really eye it, it was, kind of incredible that they did what they did with some of the play.
Well, I saw Conjol come in immediately, and I'm looking. There's 72 on the sidelines. Yeah, he's there. He has his helmet on. He's engaged. It's like, what happened to get Conjol into the game? And then he made the mistake, and then McCade went back in. It just seemed like it obviously it was not perfect for Bill's group Saturday.
And we noticed like Guyton went out, but that's because of a shoe problem. I think we figured
I think his shoe came off. Yeah.
And
I was like, why is Aaron Parks running out there?
Well, Tyler's running to the sideline. He's trying to get people's attention. I have to come out. My shoe is off. I have shoe issues, and it took them a while to realize, oh, shoot, we got to get someone else in there.
Just as a side note on Tyler Guyton, talking to him on Monday night, that was the first time that I'd really been up close to him without pads on. He is built like a power forward. Like, he is not fat at all. It's really kind of fascinating how his body's put together. He's a massive, massive dude.
Well, and did you see, and it kind of puts some perspective on how much room he still has to grow. Did you guys see the picture of the J.C. Latham guy from Alabama that just looks like a 9-volt battery with pads on? Like he's like 6'5", 330, and he's like their starting left tackle, and he's going to be another, Alabama first-round pick before long. But just like the difference in body type, you're like, that's where you got to get to. Like you're still working to that. But I mean, and Guyton's exactly like what I said about Savion, because to me, if there's one guy that has the same kind of ceiling as Savion, it's Tyler Guyton. The question is, like, can OU weather the storm while he learns on the job? And I wonder maybe if that's why they're a little hesitant to put Savion in, because then you've got two really green guys right next to each other, making calls, doing all the stuff they've got to do. That's a risk, man. Like, I mean, if you had Chris Murray next to him, okay, maybe it's a little safer and you could make that work. But as it is, that's kind of interesting. But like I said, with Guyton, I would expect him to make a jump, because I mean, he was that was so much more meaningful football than he's played to this point.
Well, and I think the most, I guess, unfortunate thing for this week is none of that's going to be really solved until maybe Wanya Morris gets back, and then you have a better idea of maybe what this offensive line is going to be, because as you said, you have some guys playing out of position, or certainly not in the position that they thought they were going to be, 2 weeks ago. Was there anybody else on the rewatch in the Monday Morning Idiot that you kind of went, okay, he had a better or maybe even worse game than we maybe talked about on the postgame pod?
Oh, I am gonna pat my own back here. Jake Taylor, my guy, that dude in the fourth quarter, he cleared some people out. One of the runs, it was Javonte Barnes' second carry.
Yeah, the 7-yard carry.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can watch literally Jake Taylor bury the defensive lineman right next to where Javonte Barnes gets tackled. Like he just drives the guy down the field. And that's Jake's game, man. He's got some nasty to him. He finishes. I mean, like, and people do this, and I probably fall prey to it too. Like, you hear a guy like, oh, he's from Las Vegas. He's from a private school in Las Vegas. He's soft. Man, there ain't nothing soft about Jake Taylor. That dude is nasty. And again, if you want to throw out the idea of sliding him over to the left because you feel good about Chris Murray at right, fine. I don't do whatever you've got to do, whether it's just creating some pressure on Mattel, whatever the motivation you think you need for whoever's going to be your left guard, do it. Like, do whatever it is. And if it needs to be Jake Taylor getting some snaps over there, fine. And see how that goes. But, again, I thought he was the guy that I came out of that game thinking he's got to get more snaps. Like, you got to find out if this guy can help you now.
Outside of offensive line, was there one position that really stood out to you that, I don't know, that maybe surprised you a little bit?
Just from like rewatching it, and Josh, I'd love to hear your answer, because I'm sure that you watched him a lot. That linebacker group looked really good of Danny Stutzman and David Awegbu. Even when just from a standpoint of watching the television broadcast, it's like those guys are moving so well right now.
I agree with you completely on Stutzman. Stutzman was much better on the review than I thought he was. Like, and I know that sounds super self-serving and all that, right? Because we know my fandom there. But I thought he was really good. I thought he played a really clean game, really smart, especially for a guy getting his first career start. Kind of like what I was talking about with Taylor, his first, extended meaningful snaps where he was eating up the lion's share of it. I thought Ugwebu had really good moments. He's clearly much more comfortable between the tackles than he is outside of it. Had a few misses. We talked in the postgame about the one he missed out in space.
Yeah.
I think that was on Awat, the running back, if I remember right. But there was the one play that stood out to me, and with the way Kent State does things offensively, I think you're going to see them really target him. UTEP basically ran a little play action right in front of him, sucked him up, and then ran a crosser back behind him and hit. It was one of their third down conversions. Like, OU did a nice job, but it was one of the ones they got in the game. And it was strictly because when he bit up on the play action, he never got his depth back. And so they were able to just kind of drop it in over his head. And if he's 2 yards farther back, he can probably get a hand on it, at least do something to interrupt Hardison's throw. So, again, it's a little thing. It's week one. He's still learning it all. Like, I get it. It's fine. But Kent State's going to test him. I'd bet you money you'll see some crossers and stuff behind the linebackers, just seeing if they can get some stuff going. And they love a little play action and a little read game.
That was one of the Monday Morning Idiot, little sidebars that you put up. And if anybody wants to check that out on the Crimson Corner, I thought that was pretty good. That entire thing was really informational. Guys, I was surprised that Kent State's staying in Tulsa this week. That is so weird to me that they finished up in Seattle and then just flew back. And I guess it's because the holiday on Monday. And I really don't know why. It doesn't really make sense why they wouldn't have just flown back to Kent, Ohio, and then flown out here on Thursday. I thought that was weird, though.
I'm sure it's money saving.
Yeah, unless it's just tougher in the MAC.
I guess, but is it more expensive
and you
to
only
put them all up in
days
hotel?
Yeah, well, I mean, you only miss 2 days of school.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be doing Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe, depending on when your flights get in and all that kind of stuff. And then Thursday, you're back on the road. So, I don't know. It's a little bit of an odd move, but, I mean, Labor Day creates some interesting circumstances, as we can all attest, trying to work and do all the normal stuff from a football season while dealing with holiday weekend and all that kind of stuff. It just creates a lot of interesting challenges, obviously, even for football staffs.
And now me and Eddie can go to Union and try to watch practice.
Yeah, we can get up there and Coach Fred maybe let us use the office just for some
use
recon.
That new press box, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Those facilities might be nicer than what they have in Kent. I don't know. Probably,
There's a very real possibility.
Probably comparable.
Yep, I would guess. I mean, Ohio's not going to be. They're not going to be like, oh, that's they get it. But there's a lot of places that come and are like, holy crap, they play high school football here. Yeah. I get that in Texas all the time, like from people that are visiting, and they're like, because I know, like, people talk about Mater Dei and Bosco. Mater Dei, the time I saw them was playing at a small JUCO. And JUCOs in California are not like JUCOs in Oklahoma and Texas. It's a little low-rent operation that maybe seats 2,500 people. And they go, and obviously they go out and beat the brakes off of who was it? Bosco that went in and beat Allen?
The shit out of Allen, yeah.
Yeah. And Mater Dei obviously beat the crap out of Duncanville last year. And they've got to be looking around like, you guys get this? We have all these players, and you guys get 10,000 people every time you suit up on Friday? Like, that's wild.
That's why it's why USC and UCLA are leaving, right?
Yeah.
Going to the Pac-12?
Yeah.
Or being Big Ten?
Big Ten.
Oh, the attendance at the Rose Bowl on Saturday.
That was so embarrassing.
That was nice.
I think Lincoln just wanted the challenge of the Big Ten. I think that's really what that's about.
Yeah, that's what he wanted. Mm-hmm. Want to take just a second and mention our good friends at primeshrimp.com. That's PRIME shrimp.com. That's a very simple, a very easy concept. You pick your shrimp out, French Quarter Alfredo, garlic or butter, Louisiana shrimp oil, their signature sauce, their Simply shrimp that you season, and their new lemon and cracked pepper. And you just pick out what flavors you want. They send them to you in a frozen pouch. You drop those bad boys in boiling water, and in under 10 minutes, you've got a full restaurant quality meal with no prep and no mess. And for now, for a limited time only, you can use the code SoonerScoop and get $20 off your first purchase from primeshrimp.com. That's $20 off of your first purchase of anything that you want on the primeshrimp.com website. Also, Prime Shrimp been active on the boards with the community. You guys have been, we can't thank you enough for the great response that you've had and how much you guys are enjoying their product. So please go check them out, support them, primeshrimp.com. Use that promo code SoonerScoop for $20 off your first order. Okay, so, Kent State, I saw bits and pieces of that Washington game at the beginning, but it looked like they kind of actually played okay. I mean, they scored 21. I don't know if Washington's any good or not. I mean, it's kind of like I saw Florida State players declared that they are back.
Wow.
But
let's maybe
beating
pump,
LSU.
let's maybe pump the brakes on that.
Does anybody remember what LSU looked like in their bowl game last year? Like, I don't know if LSU's any good at all.
Well, the only time LSU could move the ball is when the FSU went prevent. I mean, like that they just I don't know. That looked like two very mediocrely coached teams, which I'm very surprised to say about a Brian Kelly team. Whatever you want to say about that dude, he can coach. Like
he's got Butch Jones coming in to save everything.
Well, that should just solidify everything. But what I will say. that I think, is kind of interesting, and it's something I know others have touched on already, is when you go back and watch that game, and I was watching it while we were doing the post-game pod the other night, Washington just dinked and dunked Kent to death. I mean, just Kent wasn't going to give them anything over the top, just played real soft. How does that work for Jeff Lebby? Because we know that's not his methodology. He wants to attack and be vertical. They're running nines. I mean, they want to average 20 yards of completion if they can, that kind of deal. But there
was one play I remember. I felt so bad for him, but they ran a play, and I don't think it went where it was supposed to go. And I think Gabriel got pressure, but Marvin Mims had literally run 80 yards, and the play was over, and he had to run back. He wasn't even tapping himself on the helmet. He was just okay, I gotta run back. But I felt so bad for the guy. But you're right. I mean, what they do is they send somebody deep on almost every play.
It goes without saying too, but Jeff Lebby talked about this on Monday, just as far as them practicing spotting the ball, turning around and giving the ball. Yeah,
I thought that was very intriguing.
I mean, it makes sense why they would do it, and I guess it kind of goes without having to
it's
say
making
that
sure
they do
don't
it.
go to the outside official.
Right.
Move it inside so we can get going.
Yep, and it was even more interesting that he said that they have people in practice on the sidelines ball, trying to distract them.
That's right.
And they have to still go back inside to give the ball to the referee. So that's one of the reasons why when we're out at practice during the preseason, even when they're over at the rugby fields, they bring out those referees.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not. It's not the tempo thing is not new. I mean, we've seen it going all the way back to I want to say the first time I saw it, and it was interesting that Brent was talking about it, because he was talking about, when you first started seeing this, a team would have 3 plays.
Fastball, yes.
And every once in a while they'd have one play that would change things up or whatever, and how it's evolved and signals and how they can get plays in so quick now. But Missouri with Chase Daniel was the first team I remember doing it, and it screwed Oklahoma up. It really worked well, but it's been a long time since people have been doing this, and I don't know. I'm not saying it's gimmicky, but I don't know. I sometimes I don't know how I feel about that, because it is, and Brent's not making any excuses for the defense. He's look, if we're out there, we need to shut them down, regardless of how fast the turnover was or whatever. But it can get you into trouble.
It can get you into trouble if it's not working. I mean, It almost got them into trouble a little bit in the second quarter when all of a sudden you look up and it's 21-10. But at the same time, I think that there is this ideology that you can go back and also say, the flip side of it is it puts pressure on the offense to have to go answer if it's rolling at the rate that you want it to. So I don't know. It probably, it's going to be talked about obviously right now, but it won't be a major problem until, a lot of things.
You face a good team,
until it is.
Yeah.
You can make teams one-dimensional very fast, like OU did when you're up 21-0 within 15 plays.
I mean, I think Oklahoma gets through, Kansas or Kent State obviously this weekend, and it starts about a 4-week period where I think we really started to get an idea, including that trip to Lincoln, and then Kansas State at TCU, Texas. That seems like a 4-game stretch where you're going to look up, coming out of Dallas, and you go, okay, this is what this Oklahoma team is.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a week away. So we'll see.
Because Nebraska, if there's any pride left in what they've got, they're going to bring it all.
100%.
Next weekend.
I think that there is just this thought that if you're an Oklahoma fan, you need to grind it into your head right now. It's kind of like playing a Bedlam or a OU Texas in a way where they're going to give you everything that you got. And especially if they're playing for Scott Frost's job. We'll see what they do against Georgia Southern this week. It's going to be a tough game. You're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to be tough, yada, 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 about everything when you go on the road and play.
At the same time, if Oklahoma's legit, don't they kind of
100%
win pretty easily in that?
100%. If they're the team that you think can go win a Big 12 and get to a playoff, and that type of team,
they're up by they basically walk out of there up by 14.
Yeah,
maybe Nebraska kicks a field goal or something late, but
one of those games that you keep your distance. Every time that you score, you go score.
Yep.
You're answering, you're punch for punch
type
thing. And, I guess it's just because it's one of those first games on the road type deal. You just wonder how everything goes. Like, there's a lot of these guys, for as much as they talked about being, in a OU uniform for the first time, and you expect them to make a jump from week 1 to week 2, they're going to be going through those firsts for the first time next week when you go on the road. So I think that they can handle it. It's a little bit different than, somebody that would be coming in green. Like, Dylan Gabriel's played a road game. I don't think that's going to be new to him. But they're going to be, we'll see what the crowd's like. I think obviously it's going to be a pretty good crowd.
It's going to be a crowd that starts off frothing at the mouth.
Sure.
But it's also going to be a crowd that is willing to just be like, oh, shit, here we go again.
Well, and we've seen Oklahoma teams, whether it be, I guess Baker would be a good example of going on the road. He had played a road game before. They had problems in the first half in Knoxville. And obviously those problems were fixed in the second half. You won the game in overtime. But this is maybe a little bit different in that this is like a brand new staff going on for the first time, and maybe there are some parallels there.
I'm wondering, the organization-wise, with Brent in a road game, he shouldn't have any issues, but it will be his first time.
How aggressive are they going to be? Like that kind of stuff. Yep. It should be slightly fascinating, but you got to get through Kent State. Obviously, you want to get out of there without any injuries. All that kind of stuff.
I'm sure the last thing Brent would want us sitting here talking about Nebraska, but I'm looking now. Oklahoma just a 3.5-point favorite right now in that game.
Yeah, and I think that's come down because I think it opened.
It was
around
4.5.
I thought it was like
5.5.
7.5 at one point during the summer.
Well, Nebraska got through the trap game.
Yeah, that's true. And congratulations to Scott Frost.
Guys, I did want to say what is kind of interesting, and I agree with you. I mean, Dylan Gabriel shouldn't be overwhelmed by that crowd, that environment, but he's never played anything close to that. I'm looking through old UCF schedule. I just kind of got interested to see. I mean, you're talking at Florida Atlantic, at Pitt, at Cincinnati, at Temple. Like, don't get me wrong, Pitt, okay, in the right scenario, that can be a good home crowd, but
not that
like
scenario.
An engaged Nebraska, no, it's not the same thing. Now, again, he's played enough football. I really don't think that's a big factor, but it's an interesting thing to consider because I think it's something, because of his experience, it's easy to take it for granted.
And that's kind of one of those things, too, when you're talking about traveling on the road and doing all those things for the first time. I think that's where you kind of rely on that leadership unit. And, I think the one thing that Brent has said time and time again here over the course of, the month and a half or 2 months since the season began, even going back into the beginning of media day, is they feel like they have a pretty good strong core of leadership within this thing. And you would hope that gets you prepared and gets your mind right before you go on the road for the first time.
By the way, looking at it, BetMGM had the highest line on that game, OU Nebraska, at 5.5.
And you would hope the players that played in that game last year would understand. They were supposed to win by 20, 30 points last year.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we don't know is the finish of this team. Is Brent Venables going to make a difference there? Jeff Levy make a difference there? Because they had the 2 3-and-outs and they ran the ball. They were like, okay, well let's just get physical. And I thought it was interesting because everybody talked about, they were pretty open about, we realized we had 2 3-and-outs. It wasn't good. And instead of, cratering, they just went out and extended it further.
And it's easier to do that against UTEP and even the Kent States of the world than it's going to be, a Nebraska or, the week after the Kansas State game. I really have circled here in Norman, just as far as kind of maybe a bigger test that I think a lot of people had it circled at the beginning of the year, but I think that's the one that if you can get through next week or these next 2 weeks, you go, okay, what is this team when they come back home? What is that team on the road against TCU and then Texas?
Yeah, the thing that's driving me crazy right now is just it's like with this Florida State thing. It's we just don't know.
Everybody
TCU looked impressive, but that was without Chandler Morris. We don't know if Colorado's really any good.
I don't think
we know Colorado's not good.
Colorado's not any good. And that was a 7-7 game or something.
Darius Davis might be really good.
Yeah, he was really good. The kick return looked awesome.
Guys, did you see Adrian Martinez's line?
Awful.
Man.
11 completions.
11 for 15 for 53 yards. That's like a Josh Rosen, like a Josh Rosen NFL line. Like that.
5 yards completion. How?
And he was like, yeah, we were doing some other thing. No.
You're covering up the fact that he's not a good quarterback with the way you're using it.
That's what you were doing. And I'm like, oh. So, maybe what we've learned through the first couple of weeks, it was Martinez and Frost. It's not one or the other. They were both a little problematic for each other.
Well, I mean, we know what Casey Thompson is as a quarterback. I mean, he's a guy that can make some plays, but he's not taking you to a conference championship. And, I mean, that's what he looked like against Northwestern, a guy that was really good in the first half, made some adjustments, and they took some things away from him, and he wasn't making all those throws in the second half. I mean, that's the thing about Martinez is like, yes, I understand Kansas State is a dark horse pick, but I was like, but it's Adrian Martinez. Like, and then, well, he almost brought him back against Oklahoma. Yeah, so did Tulane's quarterback, and he wasn't any good either.
So did the kid from Kansas that nobody remembers.
Yeah.
That couldn't even start in the intramural league.
He looked like a star in that first half.
Sir, you may have to leave the press.
He looked like he was transferring to Alabama at halftime.
Well, there's a lot of quarterbacks that have been made to look really good playing Oklahoma defenses over the last.
And you know what?
4 or 5
I don't
years.
think Hardison is a terrible quarterback for UTEP.
No, that throw that he went down like quarter slot.
Yeah.
I
Right?
thought that was unbelievable.
That's pretty cool looking.
He made 3 or 4 throws that were not just everybody can make those throws, and that dude has some velocity.
He's from Las
he can
Cruces.
really spin it. I thought it was like Hobbs or something. But I mean,
Or no,
I
I think it is Hobbs. Yeah.
But I mean, either way, like kind of border town, I think in New Mexico. So, but yeah, like I said, I came
Landry
away
Jones was his
fairly
personal
impressed.
quarterback coach.
I think you have to give like George Whitfield all the credit for that, though, don't you? Because he took all the credit for Landry.
Wow, there's a
thank
name.
you. Wow.
No, he's
Remember
been
when
he's
he
been
was
back.
on game day?
No, he's been
He's
back.
been back on ESPN
Yeah.
over the last couple
Has
months.
he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it tells you how much I've been watching ESPN.
Well, it's been
Okay.
like one of those shows like during the middle of the day. They're like, God, who do we get? Call George Whitfield. See if he still has that phone number.
You guys and your woke agenda watching ESPN.
I think it was a college
Yeah.
football live where everybody was on vacation.
Yeah, it might have been.
What that was.
It might have been because I think it was right before football started.
Yeah.
We're down to the G team. We're down to the G team.
It was definitely
Okay.
July college football live. Yeah.
It will be interesting just as far as like in terms of the Big 12 this week. I think that
A lot of games, yes.
maybe even 3 of the more interesting non-conference games out there. Oklahoma State, Arizona State, maybe just to kind of see what Spencer Sanders can do again against a team that has a little bit better athletes. I don't know. They might be better than Central Michigan. Or Central Michigan might be better than Arizona State. And then
How about this line? Speaking of who we were just talking about, Kansas State's an 8.5-point favorite over Missouri.
Missouri. I don't think Missouri's any good.
No.
That game's in Manhattan, too.
Yes.
But man, that's a lot to put on a team that has some legitimate talent against Adrian Martinez. Like there's just the implosion factor is always there. And
I might like Kansas State just to do it. I don't know. I need to make that decision in the 24 hours. Might do that, though.
Did Boise State win last week?
No,
they got
their
destroyed.
ass
they
Okay.
That was that game that was going on. Oregon State.
Oh, yeah. Oregon State's
they were
actually
not
going to be
playing
good.
around.
Yeah.
And then the other
they got a good coach.
other two games this week, obviously, the happenings down in Austin with Alabama coming to town,
No.
and BYU Baylor, I think, is the best game of the week.
It's pretty good.
9:15 in Provo. Should be able to get to see maybe the fourth quarter.
Not
100% we'll be watching the second half of that.
Not if post game press conference takes as long as it.
I would hope that we don't.
Saturday.
I would hope that we don't have too much to go over after the Kent State game. But I don't know.
Can you guys believe that BYU's a 3.5-point favorite in that one?
I noticed that.
Yeah.
I noticed that. I kind of
That's
like Baylor,
wild.
but maybe that's
like
just
Vegas
like
knows something.
Yeah,
I don't know
and
about shaping.
there's a lot of people that think that BYU's really, really good. I mean, they're not going to go undefeated because their schedule's tough, but they have a good team. They were relatively pretty young a year ago.
They played them well in Waco last year.
Yeah.
By the way, if you want to lock
Yep.
Alabama, you better do it now. That line just continues to climb.
But I'm going the other way. I ain't Texas.
Lock
covers.
it whenever you want to.
I ain't Texas covering.
Stop it. No, sir.
21?
No, sir.
JoJo said it might get up to 30.
No.
Did you hear that?
It may
No.
be
This
40.
week?
Like Find me the story where Texas keeps this within 3 touchdowns. I don't know where it is.
Because
I don't
it's
see
by-
how
With
it's
a freshman quarterback.
Because it's by 35 in the fourth quarter, and then Bama stops playing.
I mean, I could see
Bama's
like a
second string D line is still better than Texas's offensive line.
That's the only thing I could
hear
see.
you, Bob. Yep.
You really think it's
gonna
gonna just be a bloodletting?
Even in that scenario, it'd be like a late punt. Oh God, it may be Georgia.
And didn't
Oregon.
Texas have Texas had some offensive line injuries, right?
They have,
Going in?
yeah.
Yeah, they lost Angelo, who their most experienced guy, who's not a great player, but a solid one. I mean, he's a loss for them for sure. My deal is, guys, okay, we think Georgia and Alabama are pretty much net neutral, right? I mean, it'd be a point game one way or another on a neutral field.
They're further along than a lot of people, yes.
If I'm
Yeah.
Bijan this week, I'd just pull a hamstring in practice just magically.
Have an NIL
Are you-
showing at 11 a.m. Can't make it. Sorry, guys.
Even seeing what we saw of Georgia against Oregon, I'd still take Oregon over Texas on a neutral field.
Yes.
Oregon.
And
I don't know.
So what are we talking about?
You're going to bet on
here?
Bo Nix?
Yeah, that's not a good bet.
I mean,
I'd take Adrian Martinez over Bo Nix.
they're very similarly disappointing.
Dan Lanning could stick his running back there and probably be fine and just run it at Texas.
Boy, you are.
I don't see any way.
The only thing, maybe in his
Texas is not good, guys.
I guess
They're
it's
just
just
not.
one of those things that I fall back on that kind of makes me fearful in college athletics when you spend 5 months telling somebody that they're not good enough and that they can't even be on the same field. And then all of a sudden you look up, and I'm not saying that I think Texas is going to win by no means, but
Eddie predicted a win. I want everybody
if
just tag him
if
on
they
Twitter.
do win, I want everybody to remember this. I do think that it could be somewhat of one of those games that it stays right at about 15, 17 points for the course of the game. Maybe Alabama turns the ball over twice. Something happens. I don't know. Now, if I had a gun to my head, I'm betting on Alabama because I feel like that's kind of I'm taking Nick Saban every time over Steve Sarkisian. It just
How does Texas move the ball?
no, and that's completely fair. Like somebody I was talking to somebody earlier this week. It's like maybe you could do some gimmicky stuff. That's what Nick Saban wants you to do. Like you're playing right into his hands if you try to do gimmicky stuff to move the ball against him.
Okay, you guys have heard us talk about it a lot. Deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. If you don't have a pair of these socks or multiple pairs of these socks, what are you doing? Get to the website, use that promo code SCOOP. You'll get 25% off your entire order. So what are you waiting for? We've told you about the no-shows. We've told you about the boardrooms. We've told you about the college collection. Go check them out now. Use that promo code SCOOP. Get 25% off your entire order, and you need these socks. They're just pillowy perfection. We love them around here at Scoop. We wear them all the time. Deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com, and pick out a favorite pair or more today. Also, ladies, looking for a gift for the significant other, Deadsoxy.com. You will not regret it. He will love those socks. You might even love them too. Women buy them as well. So DEADSOXY, Deadsoxy.com. Use that promo code SCOOP. Get 25% off your entire order. And as always, stay soxy. You know, the thing that I saw this weekend that not shocked me, but I was surprised to see it was just the DJ Ungalele is still not a very good quarterback.
There's a situation
like you want to
there.
talk about quarterbacks that are overhyped. He just doesn't. At this point, I've seen him enough to wonder, like, does he see a football field in front of him?
There's something. I mean, their offensive line's not good. Clemson's.
Their right tackle was awful.
Clemson's offensive line hasn't been good in years.
Yeah. It will be.
That is their. If you look at all their positions, they produce NFL guys everywhere except the offensive line, and I don't know why.
It is interesting too, and he got thrown into a 34-point game, so there wasn't a whole lot of pressure, but just the way that Cade Klubenek just operated.
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
this
Just looks
it looked
different.
like
this
normal.
guy,
Yeah.
this guy,
Looks
And he just kind of, the way that he like carries himself on the sidelines after the touchdown was like, shit, he kind of knows he's good. And I guess I have this like idea that he's just this kid from Austin, probably kind of cocky. Like I kind of like the flow that he had there.
It's just bizarre. And like, I'm kind of one of those guys too. I was like, okay, to me, Tony Elliott is kind of like the new Chuck Long. Like, and that's not to shit on Chuck Long, but it's like, he's very conventional, and I don't really see like genius there, but he's a play caller and he understands offense, but I don't want him as my head coach. Like, and now Tony Elliott's gone, and it's, I don't know. I didn't see anything in that game. I was like, wow, Clemson's really going in the right direction offensively. I mean, if they're playing a real team,
Klubnik got on the field.
Yeah, if they're playing a real team, they were in trouble. Georgia Tech is
because
awful.
People will look at that 41-10 and think, yeah, that's about what I thought would happen there. Defense led Clemson. They're just playing to their strength, whatever. If you watched that game, Clemson was in trouble in the third quarter.
Yeah, when they cut it to 14-10, I think in the third quarter, early in the, I think it was there was like 9 minutes left. Right. Half had just started. It's like, no way Clemson loses this, right? And then all of a sudden, you look up and they're back up by 21 or whatever it was, and it was okay. Everybody can breathe, but at the same time, they have some problems offensively. There's no doubt about that.
I think the one game that left me the most confused as to whether either of those teams were any good was Notre Dame, Ohio State, because I'm like, I thought Notre Dame was taking a step back a little bit, but then
we say that, but like, and that's the thing I didn't understand about the 17-point line, which was kind of inflated, was because, I mean, Notre Dame was still the preseason number 5 team in the country.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they were just terrible. I think that there was this idea that Ohio State, who didn't play well for, 3 quarters, offensively, I think that people thought they were going to just go up and down the field on Notre Dame, and that just didn't seem to be the case.
Was it more that Ohio State just thought they were going to roll their helmets out there and going to play just like they finished last season?
Maybe somewhere in the middle.
Without
they didn't play that well, and Notre Dame played okay.
The receivers, not having Garrett Wilson and who was it?
Chris Olave.
Olave that they lost to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and then they lose in Jigba. I mean, largely. I mean, he wasn't himself, clearly, in that one. But, guys, I mean, honestly, I came away thinking Notre Dame's better than I thought they were.
Yeah, I guess that was my
feel on it.
Yeah.
Because, I know what Ohio State has in skill guys. Man, those are dudes. Like, I'd take their skill guys over anybody in the country, even Alabama or anybody else. Like, they're incredible. Athletically, I thought their offensive line just got pushed around a little bit. And guys, our old buddy Al Golden returns, and I thought he put together a pretty nice plan for Notre Dame. Like they did a nice job defensively.
You know who is a dude though in that game, and it just kind of proves it. Jim Knowles in the second half is like, I saw somebody had put together a just stats and what Oklahoma State had done first half, second half, and I think everybody kind of knew that. Like second half, he goes in, makes adjustment, they shut everything down.
Bedlam.
Yeah. Well, look at what Ohio State did to Notre Dame in the second half. Absolutely shut that thing down.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, he's a coach
for everybody wanting to run with their Alabama Texas tickets because Josh told them that Alabama's just going to kick them around. I debated whether Jim Knowles could have a real impact like that early. I was like, man, I don't know. Like there was part of me that thought last year was just a combination of a lot of experience and, just a confluence of events that were not going to be able to be replicated. And dadgum, they looked just night and day different than the team we'd seen the last couple of years.
Josh, did you get a chance to watch any Spencer Rattler last weekend? I didn't even look at the line, but I think it was Eddie that told me he had a very up and down.
I think he threw 2 picks. I mean,
he did.
2 picks, 227 yards through the air. I didn't watch a single second of the game, so I'm not going to act like I did. But just from people that did, it kind of seemed like it was same old Spencer,
Rattler-esque.
Throwing some balls into triple coverage, taking chances when he shouldn't. They were still able to get away.
Running for his life.
Yeah.
That seemed to be a big thing, too.
That's not pretty to watch. Spencer Rattler running for his life.
his QBR was lower than
it's
Georgia
like in
State's
20s,
quarterback,
yeah.
who was 7 for 29.
Oof.
Yeah. It was not good. And it doesn't get
wasn't
any
good.
easier for South Carolina. Their next 2 weeks involve a trip to Fayetteville, and then they return home to host Georgia. Their schedule, they go Arkansas, Georgia the next 2 weeks. They get 2 breathers against Charlotte and South Carolina State. And then they go at Kentucky, Texas A&M and Columbia, Missouri, at Vanderbilt, at Florida, Tennessee, at Clemson.
So the Aggies and the Hogs are their crossover.
Yeah.
The West.
They're road games. Fayetteville, Kentucky, Nashville, whatever. And then Gainesville, Clemson. Pretty tough. So we'll see. Getting to 6-6 might be a godsend for South Carolina this year. And I hate to say that, too, because I'm cheering for him.
Yeah, I know you're big Shane Beamer guy.
Sucks. But we'll see. We wish the best to Spencer Rattler.
He's got more cars than all of us.
No. Did you see what Caleb Williams was wearing
No.
to the game?
I'm trying to guess. Was it like all Balenciaga or something?
I guess. I don't know what that is. But it was like Jinkos.
He learned it this weekend.
He wore Jinkos?
Like basically like it was a very startling image, and I just thank God OU's wearing suits. We'll just put it like that.
I do like the suits.
They
thing.
look sharp.
Yeah.
They look sharp.
I will say though, but I liked when the guys kind of put their
Show their
best foot forward.
personality.
Yeah,
a
like
little bit.
Nobody was doing anything too weird.
Yeah.
I don't think that like what they're wearing into the game connects to how they play.
No.
But I think the suit thing looks sharp. Shout out Sooners in suits.
I'm trying to find the Caleb Williams thing right now. Now you've.
I am happy OU's on at the same time as that game, so I won't hate watch the Trojans.
Hate watching is fun.
Stanford.
Hate watching is fun. As somebody that
Oh, if they're losing, you
Does
can
a lot of hate
guarantee that I will be. I'll get that up on my laptop immediately.
the loudest ovation in the stadium on Saturday outside of Brent Venables on the big screen might end up being whatever that score is, and if it's going a certain way.
Absolutely.
Oh, E.J. Smith.
Well, and that's the question. Would Joe C. approve that? Like, would he approve US? He's got to. I might send him a message, say, hey, if USC is getting beat, you've got to
let Plank use
do
it.
in-game updates. Yeah.
This is part of the Make Lindsay Street Great Again movement. You know, like you've got to embrace what your fans want, and they love a little USC hate right now.
That's right.
That's okay.
Hey, it's made Joe a lot of money. Donors, they've stepped it up this year. They really got pissed off.
Guys, I know a lot of our listeners don't pay attention to Stanford football. Tanner McKee is absolutely good enough to give USC some problems. Like that kid is good. He is one of those guys, kind of like the guy that got drafted by the Texans a couple years ago, whose name's going to just escape me. He left during the COVID year. Probably could have come back and maybe pushed into the first round.
Davis Webb?
Tanner McKee yeah. You're exactly right. Davis Webb. Tanner McKee's one of those guys, signed with Stanford, went on a mission trip. I think he's an LDS kid. And then came back and just, like I said, had some really nice moments last year. 22 of 27 to start the season this year. I mean, again, it's Colgate. You're not going to get crazy or anything, but he's got some really nice tools. He's a kid I liked a lot in high school, played at Corona Centennial, big-time program, kind of the third program right now in Southern California behind Mater Dei and Bosco.
Very interesting. Okay, outside of we kind of hit on the college football landscape a little bit, but that's not Jinko.
They're like wide-legged.
I'm thinking like PFT sets the standard
Oh,
for
no,
Jinkos.
not like Jinko.
Okay.
I misspoke.
No, but outside of that, I mean, I don't think we talked much about like Jaden Davis's day, which was impressive, but just secondary overall. I mean, there was
They didn't give any chunk plays,
Yeah.
so not
just
too much
solid.
to say.
Yeah. I mean, just really. I mean, outside of probably that little stretch where it was like Kendall Dennis and
DJ Graham with Trey Morrison.
But I'm saying with Trey Morrison and Kendall Dennis, like they were playing zone out there and they were kind of giving up too many plays. Like that was the only thing I was like, okay, that doesn't look so good.
But then when those guys went back in the second half, it looked a lot cleaner. But yeah, that was the little.
I mean, that's weird. I mean,
dicey part.
We've barely talked about Trey Morrison, and it's like we finally get to see him, and he's starter on special teams. But I don't know. Is it a little red flaggy, like that we haven't talked about him that much, and then we see him, and it's not all that great.
I think it just means that's what you want with Billy Bowman being better. You want him to be better because he feels like he's got the tools, potential to be that much better. And, Trey, that was an interference in the end zone. It's kind of a sneaky one because if you first look at it, it doesn't look like it, but that was definitely a flag.
Well, the worst, I talked about this in The Idiot. On that same play, if you go look, R. Mason Thomas gets just massacred, like just held to. I mean, like he kills that quarterback if the lineman doesn't grab him, and it's the same play, and it should have just offset, but of course it didn't. So,
what did you think about him overall, R. Mason Thomas?
That's another dude that's got to find some more snaps. Like that, there's nobody they have that's anywhere near that twitchy. Like he just explodes. The sack he shared with Grimes, he doesn't do it. Like he comes off the ball, it's pretty quick. The tackle catches up to him, and he doesn't really have an answer. But the second Hardison slides outside that tackle, it was like a cheetah. Like, I mean, he just attacks and, like, is on that quarterback. And Grimes is there, too. But, I mean, R. Mason Thomas closes that ground. Like, I mean, I don't know if there's another guy in the front seven that has that kind of closing speed. Maybe Witter, just because he runs so well. But that's about the only guy I could think of.
Should we read into anything that, like, the guys that have made kind of waves as freshmen, or the new guys that have made waves? R. Mason Thomas, Grayson Halton, Gavin Freeman to a certain extent. I mean, these are all guys that weren't technically part of the class until the new staff came in. Or is that just a complete coincidence? Because the way that they talk about R. Mason Thomas,
Barnes has been what you want him to be. He showed up in the winter.
That's a fair point. Maybe it is just complete coincidence. I thought that it was interesting, and it just dawned on me that all these guys technically weren't part of the class until the new staff came around.
And we need to see
Jaden Gibson.
Need to see Jaden and Nick. And I mean, Levy and Brent both said it. Like, whoops, that was my fault. I got to get those guys in.
Well, and the other thing, I if you want to count disappointments, I don't think it's disappointing, but you didn't really get to see the big flash from Jalil Farouk after all we've heard about him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he did get targeted. I mean, some were overthrows, some were just he didn't get open. So, I mean, it's clear that Dylan Gabriel wants to go to him, but to not see him kind of have his – when you saw it from Theo Wees, you saw it –
Two catches.
But I mean, still,
that's why I said on the postgame pod that
there was a big flash play though with Theo Wees.
There was.
I don't want to put it like this, but I was just kind of slightly disappointed just overall with the wide receiver unit. But then
you
again,
saw Drake early, but then didn't see him
23 passes.
Like, yeah, how many opportunities did they really get?
Were you really going to get?
It's like we sit here and we were bitching about it, but then you go back to what Jeff Levy said after the game. It's like, oh yeah, they did have 21 points after running 15 plays. Like, can you be disappointed in that?
Well, and then you have those 2 3-and-outs, and you're like, let's cool it a bit on being pass happy, and we're up 21-0, so let's run this thing out.
If nothing else, that you could come out of Saturday saying it's, not only was the hype real, but like I want to see more of Braden Willis, not just catching the football, blocking. He was a madman on Saturday, and I think that he is going to be obviously one of the better players on the field.
I haven't seen enough. It's only snippets, but I've kind of caught snippets of he and Jeremiah. They started back their pod on the prairie. Seems like Braden's a lot more serious this year. Like Jeremiah seems like he's joking around. Joey,
of course,
like Braden seems like he's locked in, man. Like you can tell he really is trying to make the most out of this.
Jeremiah Hall's reaction to Gavin Freeman was legitimately funny. He's like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
Where did he come from?
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Guys, did you go back and watch the broadcast? So
I
after
watched it
Freeman's
last night,
touchdown,
yeah.
they isolate on a guy who is having a hell of a time about the Gavin Freeman touchdown. And I had it on mute, and I was like, is that Jason? And I was like, I kind of look, and I'm like, no, that's not. Like, it takes me a second, but I legitimately thought Jason Freeman was literally having just a complete moment in the crowd, like just coming apart. And I was like, no, I think he'd be more chill than that.
Well,
like, there's something about him that tells me
per reports, I think that he was losing it in the crowd.
Okay, good.
But I don't know if that was
Okay.
him on television. I did think it was really cool that like Matt Wells is the first guy over to congratulate him on the sidelines. It's like, how perfect is that? That
I'm the
both
one
of
that
those
believed
guys,
in you. Yeah.
like both of those guys were supposed to be kind of married in Lubbock, and they found a way to be back on the same team on the same sideline in Norman.
Guys, somebody asked me about that. How is it he can be on the sidelines?
You can be on the sidelines. I mean, the soul guys are on the sidelines. You just can't be. You can't have a headset on. You can't be coaching.
Okay.
Well, you
Okay.
might be able to have it because I mean, there's students.
Maybe
You have to
you don't have
designate who can
Yeah.
have on headphones
Bingo.
before the game because like student assistants sometimes have
Oh,
headphones.
and
on.
it was not lost on
Okay.
me. Like, he basically followed Brent around the entire day on Saturday, and you could tell like Brent was picking his brain throughout the entire pregame. They walked out from the tunnel together. It was kind of fascinating to see like just how much Brent has relied on so many other people to just kind of feel him out. Like, obviously ask questions. He's one of those guys that he said it on Tuesday. He was probably one of those guys that I hated in class that, like, 5 minutes before we were supposed to get out, he's asking questions about everything.
Yeah.
Because he wants to know.
Let the bell ring.
Yeah,
Dang it.
and that's it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It was just kind of interesting. And, somebody else brought it up on the board. There's a student assistant or graduate assistant that stands right next to Bill
yeah.
during the games. And that's just another one of those, like, when you have a huge support staff or a bigger support staff than they've had in the past, those are one of the benefits from it.
Yeah. I would say this too, just about Brent. Like, I don't think he took offense, but the whole get back coach and stuff like that. I mean, he was very composed during the game. I never thought for once like, well, he's losing it. Like, he's really losing. Like, he never was that guy. And I think we can kind of get past that now. There's not no more crazy Brent questions. So
Until Nebraska.
Until he does lose it
Until he
in a
does
game.
lose
And I think it's going to happen at some point. It's just easier. I do think he's like reined in a little bit, but there's going to be something that pisses him off throughout the year. There has to be.
especially when you're halfway through the year and people should know things better and they still
Right.
screw up.
Oh, right.
Because
Yeah.
like right now he's like, yeah, I can live with some mistakes, but
Yeah.
6 weeks from now he's probably not going to be as chill.
Sure.
All right. Anything else from the game? You want to move on to some recruiting because I know Josh has got a big trip planned.
Yeah,
this
we
week.
can move on to recruiting. It's going to be actually a pretty big week just with all of us getting out to games and that kind of stuff. But you're headed out to the West Coast in Kansas City, Josh.
Yeah, really. This is one I've been looking forward to, and everybody's like, "You gonna go have some fun in Seattle?" No, I'm there for like 15 hours. Like there's no fun. I land, I go to the game. I'm hoping to do a couple interviews, and then I board a plane first thing Friday morning to head to Kansas City. But on Thursday, gonna go see Heath Ozida and Josiah Wagner. Just a fluke deal. Just happened to be playing each other. It was something Heath mentioned, and I had just started to go over my schedule like back in June, around the time Heath committed. And he was like, we actually play the Josiah Wagner kid, because at that point Wagner hadn't even committed when we were having the conversation. And I said, oh, really? Okay. And so I kind of put it on there like tentatively, like, oh, that'd be cool. That'd be a lot of fun. And I didn't know that it would work out, but it has. I'm really excited to get to see two OU commitments. My first time to ever see a game in the state of Washington. I'm kind of interested to see what that looks like. I know, I certainly won't be the only media guy there. I think Brandon Huffman at 24/7 is going to be there. So there's a lot of there's some interest here. And I think both guys have a chance to move up. I mean, I'm very interested to see Heath in person. he's a guy I like more on tape than I think some people do, but I always want to watch him. So you've got that one, and then on Friday, going to fly to Kansas City and finally get to see my guy, PJ Adebawore, one of my favorite players, not OU commitment, not just in the country. I think he's one of the absolute best pass rushers, guy with just tremendous upside, and I've run into him, I think, twice, but I've never seen him work out. I've never seen him practice. I've never seen him camp. I've never seen him go. So I'm really excited. It sounds like he may not be 100%, but he feels pretty good about where he's at. So I think I'll get a pretty good look and, get to see him. Obviously, Edric Hill going to Alabama. And then on the other side, they're playing Platte County, home of Chindavian Bradley, the Tennessee commitment. So I don't think it's every day you go to the Kansas City area and see three SEC, future SEC commits on the same field.
And Eddie, where does your weekend start?
I will be headed to Denton on Thursday to see Jackson Arnold, Peyton Bowen. Obviously, we're going to hope to catch up with Peyton after the game. Definitely going to be talking to Jackson after the game. They play Lancaster. And then both of us will be checking out Jacoby Johnson and Grady Adamson on Friday night back there in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, Johnson starts the season with a 3-touchdown performance.
He also had his car stolen.
And his car.
What the hell?
What the hell?
Talk about an up and down night.
Yeah.
I thought we were having problems around here. Nobody's stolen one of our cars
Well,
yet.
I mean, pump the brakes. Let's not yeah.
All right, pause the iPad or pause the pod. Go check.
Are they all here?
And we'll see if Grady can test Johnson, and we'll see if Jacoby will be put in that position. I feel we see him as a corner. He's going to be a corner, but Mustang uses him a lot on offense. So we'll see if he actually can play both ways the entire game. Josh, I want to go back with the fact that Geyer's playing Thursday. OU's a night game Saturday, and any chance those boys come back to Norman?
I have yet to put this up on the board now that we're having this conversation. I can confirm that Jackson Arnold will be there. I can confirm that Eli Bowen will be there. I cannot confirm Peyton Bowen will be there, but I'm just going to play the odds here and guess that those two are not coming up without the kind of the third member of their
dragon
trio.
Here.
Yeah. So I feel pretty good that OU is going to be hosting what is their top safety target in Peyton Bowen. And I want to be really clear, and I've mentioned this a few times on the board, OU likes Eli Bowen a whole lot. Don't take this as like he's a throw-in. Like that they think he's one of the best corners in the country from everything I've gathered. So he will be a guy that even if they don't get Peyton, they will push hard for Eli. They absolutely want him.
Nick Harris was at a game last weekend, mentioned maybe OU, Ryan Yates starting to drift off in separate directions there.
That's what it seems like at this point. Ryan, it's always been a little back and forth kind of. I think we'll see what happens. I think right now that don't get me wrong. Like Ryan saying that, I know Ryan, that's where he's at right now. It's recruiting. Stuff can change. It wouldn't shock me if it does. But I know my impression was that LSU was given a pretty hard sell of, like, if you're in, you're in. If you're not, kind of go on kind of thing. So I think right now he's riding, and we'll see what happens. Like, I'm not closing that door completely, but I would say for right now that, it is privately what it appears to be publicly.
And then 2:30, it's tough to get a lot of top-tier kids in. 6 o'clock helps a little bit. Maybe a better visitors list coming up.
It should be. Gosh, you just talk about the few guys we've mentioned, and that's obviously a really nice start. But I do think, you look at, there's probably going to be a little better, even like commitments. Like Eric McCarty's going to be there. I expect Jacoby Johnson to be there, and obviously you guys can verify that on Friday. But there should be a good list of guys. Jordan Renaud, obviously the official visitor. That's the big one. And I don't think it's coincidence that there are going to be a lot of committed guys there. And interestingly enough, several party at the Palace guys, that are all going to be there back to win it. In my eyes, it was the last time I felt really strongly that OU was going to get Jordan Renaud. I still think they're there. If you made me bet right now, I'd bet on Alabama. But with OU getting this last shot, hit with so close to his decision date, I mean, like I said, it's going to be tight. It's going to be one of the more interesting ones to follow because usually by this time, whether I can say it publicly, I feel like you guys, I've related to you, like this is going to go this way or that way. Jordan Renaud, it really is. It's up in the air. We'll see where it goes. But this visit weekend, like I said, I think it's going to be a lot of focus on him. And I think we've talked about that. That's what they want this to be. Yeah, that's what they want their visit weekends to be. Not 12 guys where they're, Brent Venables is pulled in 100 directions. He can really just follow Jordan Renaud around all weekend. And when he's doing it, he'll probably be with Peyton Bowen, and he'll probably be with Jacoby Johnson, Eric McCarty. So it all kind of works out. But there's no question. OU is going to give him the full, the red carpet treatment this weekend.
Just as far as stuff that you put up in Oklahoma today, there was some good news on Peyton Pierce, the Rivals 100 linebacker. Completely up to you on how much you want to share here on the pod, but
sure.
It does seem like positive news for Oklahoma that they're getting him on campus September 24th for Kansas State weekend.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the weekend I do expect maybe something a little better as far as the visit list, to kind of pop up. I could just because it's a little more of a premier game. I think guys, would you, we talked about it a little bit in the post-game pod, but would you really want a bunch of recruits to come to that atmosphere last week that was kind of sleepy? I mean, crowd was out of there by halftime.
First quarter was pretty electric.
And then,
listen, we talked about this on the post-game pod. Yeah. It was hot AF. I understand everybody's, early resignation, if you will.
Absolutely.
Now, I will say, though, Eddie, I mean, if we're going to give people and say, hey, the game day atmosphere and Lindsay's got to be better, man, it's hot in Mississippi, too. Like, it's hot in Alabama.
Yeah, they could have gone back out to Lindsay Street to party the entire time.
And that's okay. I'm just saying, if everything's got to be to a certain level, the fans are going to have to find a way to weather. I mean, it's hot in Oklahoma in September. It just is. Like, there's nothing to do about it. And I get it. Like, I'm not saying I don't understand where they're coming from, and I guess maybe if it's Georgia there instead of UTEP, it's more people are going to hang around. But like I said, it's just one of those things. Like, there's got to be some sort of solution to where you don't have it that abysmal in the second half.
Sure.
But anyway, that's a whole nother. Sorry, that was a whole different story. But yeah, I mean, I think Kansas State's when you're really going to start to see the visit weekend. Now it's to this point we don't know the kickoff time for that one.
Sure.
So
correct.
That's going to play a lot of a role.
Unfortunately, I think that might have big noon kickoff written all over it.
You're not wrong.
I mean, 11 a.m. OU Kansas State. Both teams should be undefeated.
Adrian Martinez, Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that has big noon kickoff written all over it. Maybe we can get lucky.
We got to see what's in the Big Ten that week. I don't know what's in the Big Ten that week.
Sure.
So,
one other recruiting big picture, question. The more you get out to high school games, have you had any of the conversations just as far as like people coming up to you and just being almost surprised at what Oklahoma is doing and is continuing to do on the recruiting trail?
100%. I mean, I think it depends on how you want to look at it. I guess I should pull back just a little bit. If you mean like people that I run into that are, either high school coaches or just around recruiting or whatever. Yes, absolutely. Now, if you talk to people who are engaged, like, they have a player that's being recruited by OU, there's no surprise. Like they're like, these guys come in, they're clear on their message. They know who they're talking to every time they talk. This is going to be, this is who we like. This is this guy. It's very direct. Like we've talked about on the pod forever and ever. But the people from the outside that haven't had that engagement yet, haven't had a chance to be around these guys because either they don't usually have recruits or they don't have them this year or whatever it is, there is absolutely a lot of wow. Like this is pretty impressive. It's guys, and I know I've talked to, and you guys know how it is. You go to high school games, you run into reporters from all sorts of beats, and I've run into people from the A&M beat, from the UT beat, and it's absolutely like this is crazy. Like they're kind of in disbelief.
Bags are being dropped.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, that's there's some reporters that's the only way anybody ever gets a win in recruiting, but But I mean, in those two cases, that allegation doesn't get thrown around a lot because, those in glass houses kind of thing. So, but no, it is, it definitely has. It's impressed people. And guys, I mean, it'd be easy to dunk on these people. It surprises me what OU's doing. Like, I'm not going to act like I foresaw this. I thought they'd finish 7 or 8. And people were telling me in June I was being crazy to think that was possible, and now they're like, where do you see it, Josh? I'm like, 5. Maybe I think 5 is probably where I'd pick them right now. And they're like, well, I understand you've got to be modest. Gee, it's top 5. Like, I mean, it's not that modest. So it's just they've changed the whole point of view, and it's really impressive.
All right, Kent State coming up this week. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, I did want to say, just because we were having the conversation, Wisconsin is at Ohio State on September 24th. So
that'll probably end up being a night game.
I mean,
that's probably your night game.
The ABC.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it at Ohio State?
Yeah, it's at Ohio State.
Oh, yeah, that'll be a night game.
It
just seems like they always get the night game.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I don't know what it is. I have no
that's the one
facts
contender.
to back that up.
That's the one team that I could see. Ooh, and that's the same week. I mean, totally unrelated to what we're talking about. But USC is at Oregon State. That game is scarier than people think it is. Oregon State's a good team.
That'll be your 9 o'clock ESPN, won't it?
Uh-huh. That's Arkansas at A&M. That's a pretty good game weekend as I'm kind of looking around at the schedule there. So there's some good ones. Sorry, go ahead. I'm interrupting anything reasonable.
No, I had really nothing all that interesting.
No, I think we're good. It's just like it's kind of like it doesn't suck, obviously, because football season's here, but it just kind of sucks in terms of I just don't think that we learned a whole hell of a lot last week.
2 weeks in a row, it's like
you don't want to though. Yes. You don't want to learn a whole lot. Like if we were coming into the postgame pod on Saturday night, offensive line looked terrible again. That's a problem.
I do have one question. I saw something pop up on my feed. Was it not? Did Pat McAfee kind of make people uncomfortable at game day the first time around?
Well, he jumped into the river down in Waco.
Right.
I mean, I like Pat. I kind of think that it's a little bit of a shtick, but it's funny. I mean, I think he's entertaining, I guess, to a certain extent. But my big takeaway from him joining game day is, it's been a long time since I woke up and just watched game
instead of it just being on.
It hasn't been a must-see.
Right.
Being on in the background, doing other things.
A lot of that has to do with 11 a.m. games in OU.
Yeah.
Like already being at the stadium and that kind of stuff. But the other half of it is like when I am home, it's like I'm laying on the couch or I'm getting ready to jump in the shower to come down to Norman or do whatever. You just have it on.
Yep.
It makes me feel comfortable having it on.
Yeah, like if it's a 2:30 game and we're on the road in a hotel or something, I'll have it on. But I'll be honest. I mean, if I watched it all the time, and I see people oh, you can't get rid of Lee Corso, he's a staple. Yeah, you can. You can get rid of someone that is past their prime, way past their prime.
It's sad. It's sad what they're doing.
And it's been that way for years. I mean,
yes.
And he's gotten better since he's had that last stroke, but it's still terrible. But you have all these young people. It's that's all I know is Lee Corso. Yeah, you know a bad version of Lee Corso. We can at least remember when he was, sharp. Yeah, when he was worth having on there.
It is weird that, I understand them not wanting to push him out, but there is a point where I would think that, as cutthroat as ESPN's been with some of the other people, I don't know. It is kind of weird.
Yeah, why is it he gets that treatment when other people don't get that?
I don't know.
Is it because they're afraid he's going to die as soon as they fire him? Because, that happens with old people.
I mean, they could... I don't know. It is
bring him in
weird,
for the guest picker and the mascot head, and all right, we're good.
But he's going to be doing it from his home, though. He's not even traveling anymore that much.
See, I didn't even realize that. Is he not?
No, they do. He's basically.
I knew
just
like
on
during
a feed.
COVID, he was during a like on a.
I think they
Zoom or
stayed
whatever,
with.
but-
I don't remember watching it last week.
Yeah, well, that's sad.
But I mean, clearly bringing McAfee in signals something
Sure.
Yep.
that's happening with Corso.
I think I like his show when he can be himself more than probably what the presentation is going to be on ESPN.
Hey, SmackDown is Friday nights and live, so I'll be interested how quickly he can make that turnaround.
And that's all over the country?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, what is? I was watching Kyrgios last night because Fowler won't be on the Saturday night game this week because
Oh, 'cause
US
he's
Open.
gonna be at the US Open?
Women's,
really?
Women's final, men's final Sunday. Yep. Fowler has my dream job. I hate it. He gets to do college
Little
football and
Wimbledon in
tennis.
college?
He gets to yes,
Which you're the only one that
never
says
thought
that.
about
Yeah,
he gets to do everything I love.
you're the only one that says that too.
I've gotten into tennis. Bob's gotten me into tennis over the last couple of weeks, just watching the US. It's
I've
nice
always
because it's
been
on at
into-
9
on
o'clock.
during the day.
Yeah,
it's on.
I feel like it's
early,
on
and
all the
real
time.
late. It is. It just is.
I've always been into
You've worked
tennis.
with me
I'm
for
just-
over a decade, and you've never watched soccer for a damn minute, Eddie.
There's a
After
reason for that.
9/11, I stopped supporting terrorist organizations.
I don't know what you
Not
mean.
to say that I supported them before, but
Look where they're playing the World Cup. You know, I mean, it's totally on the up.
Right.
Totally on the up. That was not a weird
we might
scenario
be.
at all.
I'll get into some World Cup. That's the one thing I will get into.
regardless
people,
of the terrorism.
Right.
I'll send out some pictures. It is the one time of year.
We should be the terrorists when it comes to soccer.
When I wear I wear my American flag bandana and drink domestic beer. I am a World Cup USMNT guy all day, every day. It's not a good look for me, but I
Do you get
rock
the
it
girls
without
to?
shame.
Do you get the girls to do the chant?
Oh, I mean, if I can, I will. It's funny. We were walking around the zoo last Saturday morning. The girls were wanting to go, and there's first Saturday of each month, you can go early to the Houston Zoo and, go walk around. So, and Tiffany was rocking her unofficial 40 hat. So, we were getting some free advertising out of the deal. But
Are you charging?
there's a guy that walks in front of us, and he's got like an OU backpack on, like it's big. And Lainey looks at me and she goes, "Daddy, it's OU." And I was like, "That's right." And she goes, and like as soft as she could do it, she was like, "Boomer." And like she was hoping the guy was going to hear her. And I was like, "Baby, he didn't hear you." So it was pretty hilarious. It's just one of those things where one game a year Tiffany works with it. Like OU Texas, Tiffany is a train wreck. It's the one time a year she really watches the game and she gets way too invested and she's just wrapped up in it. And she's like teaching the girls Boomer Sooner, and then like 364 days later they have to learn it all over again. So it's a whole thing.
Was there any lasting comments just as far as the expansion of the college football playoff? I think everybody was pretty surprised when that news came out on Friday that they actually went all the way in and did it.
I don't think that it's going to affect people's enjoyment of the regular season.
It shouldn't. Nope. I don't know why.
It won't.
Stupid.
I feel like that's just almost a little bit of a scapegoat to say that I'm unhappy with what they've done.
Look, college football is not college basketball. It's a universally loved sport. College basketball is a little niche, whatever how you want to say.
Did you see the numbers that came out just
Yes.
moments ago for
Jeez.
The ESPN.
Notre Dame and
viewing? 10.2 million for Notre Dame, Ohio State. You think people aren't going to watch this shit? Come on.
Well, if anything, it makes
10.5,
more people
excuse
be
me.
interested because there's so many other branches
Sure.
that are coming out that's like, okay, well, now I got to see if like Oregon State beats, USC, or whatever. It's like, it just adds so much more to it in my mind.
keeps the group of 5 people motivated.
LSU, Florida State, 7.55 million on that was a Sunday night game.
Night.
Oregon, Georgia got 6.2 million. Colorado State, Michigan on ABC got 3.9 million. The West v Pitt game got 3.2 on a Thursday night. Utah, Florida got 3 million. I mean, people watch college football in this country. There's no doubt about that.
To me, there are certain people, and I think because college football, and some of it is based on where its real center of gravity is, are so afraid of change. They're so afraid of anything that's different or new. And they're like, they hated the bowl system. Okay, well, now we hate the BCS system. Well, now we hate the play. Like, you're going to hate whatever change it is. Like, just accept that you're not going to like any direction it's going to change. The fact that 12 teams are going to now have an opportunity to play for it, how would that not be more interesting? Like, how would that not engage more fans? Because it's not just the 12. Like, now there's 4 teams. Well, there's about 7 or 8 that really have a chance. With 12, you could be talking about 20 teams going in November that are still involved, that are still have a shot to get into the thing.
Well, here's the thing, though, Josh. I don't believe what you just said is accurate because there's really 2 teams every year. Like, look, some years you can make an argument that the 5th team should have been in, but that rarely happens. Like, when they pick 4 teams.
And OU's been the fourth seed.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, who else are you gonna take? That when it's been 4, there's rarely been an outcry about, oh, it should have been this team. They got screwed. Nobody really thinks he might, because they know Alabama has always been the best team, or Georgia has been the best team, or it was Clemson and Alabama, or it was Alabama and Ohio State. Like, everybody knows that there's really just 2 teams that need to play each other.
Because everyone's favorite OU recruiting reporter was telling them they shouldn't even have gone anyway. You should have wished for 5th, not 4th. Go win the Sugar Bowl, damn it.
Everyone's, really?
Everyone's favorite. I'm so likable.
Thinking high of ourselves.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think it's good for college football, and I don't see any negatives.
I think the on-campus stuff could be awesome.
Can you imagine, like, the year when Alabama doesn't win the SEC and has to go to, like, Columbus in December and play it? That's going to be amazing to watch. That'll just be incredible television. Like, and the atmosphere will be insane. I mean, guys, you're talking about, what, 10 for that Ohio State Notre Dame game? That might push into the high teens. Like, I mean, that's going to be a massive viewing.
It would be awesome. And just having something in Norman would be awesome as well. I mean,
yeah.
People would still bitch, why didn't they get a top 4?
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. I mean, yeah, but I wouldn't care because
no, it'd be fun.
I think
it'd be awesome.
Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to split all the, like, so it's not like, oh, you're one of the top 4, you get a bye, but you don't get all this revenue and all this other stuff.
That's
like,
going to be the question. That's going to be the real question.
Oh, I think they split it all evenly. That 2 point, like I saw a story this morning. They think that the new contract will be like $2.2 billion. Mm-hmm. So they'll just split that all, just like the basketball tournament.
It's amazing.
No, I just mean like on-campus revenue,
right?
Like ticket sales.
You're saying if you're top 4, you lose the chance.
You lose a game,
which makes no sense when you think about it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess you'd probably rather want that than, like, you're in a better position to win a national championship. Maybe they say, well, winning a national title, that money that you're going to get at the end of that,
yeah,
maybe because
make it back.
I mean, you're talking about the possibility of playing a 17-game schedule if you don't get the bye. If you're playing in a conference that has a championship game,
sure,
and then you're not one of the teams with a bye, you're going to play 17 games to win a national championship.
Love it. More college football, the better.
All right, that's going to do it. We will be back again, once again, next week after the Kent State game. We get ready for Nebraska. Dual pods coming soon. I would say within 2 weeks, we'll start moving to the two-pod format. I don't know if that's clapping of the dog or for 2 pods.
I think that's just happiness.
2 pods. That's enthusiasm. I'm excited.
He's excited because he's not doing both of them. So anyway, we will be back again next week. Thanks again to primeshrimp.com and Dead Soxy. And we'll see you guys back here again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.